being away from them, and they can't travel at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And so just being, like I said, just having the opportunity to be a force for them is awesome. I guess it all played out from the time that I left. I was actually down in Atlanta with one of my best friends, Elisa Scott, who was the coach for the Houston Rockets, assistant coach, and won that championship 4 years in a row. So I was down there with her, and then all of a sudden, I was there for like 5 months, and working and stuff, and she's running a security company down there, and I was like, hey, listen, I want to just kind of get away out of my area, and so I went, and then all of a sudden the job came up here for coaching high school boys and teaching. So I teach public speaking as well over in Newark, but now I'm actually homeschooling, of course, and so that popped up, and I was like, okay, well, I go home and just be around my parents for a little bit. And so thank God, all of that happened so that I would be in a position to even entertain being here during this time. Because I know with the things that I've been doing and enduring, just going into the grocery stores and stuff like that, my parents wouldn't be equipped to do that. Plus, people are very unkind, at this time. And so, I couldn't, I wouldn't be able to deal with, my mom had an incident when she went to the store one time before, somebody just being real disrespectful. Like, how do you do that to elderly people? So I was like, thank God I'll go to the store, so you guys don't have to encounter, somebody trying to knock you over to get some toilet paper.
Yeah.
I know this is where we are. This is America right now.
Right. Well, so everyone's okay now, health-wise?
Yeah, health-wise, everybody is good, and, just been spending a lot of time working on myself and doing things that I wouldn't have been able to do because I would have been at work from 9 to 5, in a school. But now that I'm not, I get the opportunity to hone, some crafts of mine that I've been wanting to do for the past, year or so.
Let me get back to that. So you're coaching high school, you said, and teaching in high school?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that, okay.
Yeah, Barringer.
Do you mind telling me? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, okay, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Barringer High School in Newark. It's Barringer Arts High School.
How do you spell that?
Barringer, Arts.
Okay.
High School.
Spell it.
Yes. So I teach public speaking, and I coach. I'm a top assistant for the varsity boys basketball.
That's excellent.
Yes, ma'am.
One of my best friends is actually from that area, Bayonne, New Jersey.
Really?
She's a professor in college right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, a lot of people know about Bayonne or know someone from Bayonne or has encountered something in this area. Mm-hmm. It's a nice little famous peninsula here right off of New York. The only reason why it's not New York is because of the bay. And then, there's all sides to it, actually. I'm sitting here looking out at the water. I'm getting ready to walk, and I do hills and push-ups. And so there's this trail that's back here by the park. Now, I'm on the Newark side right now where I can see that whole channel and planes flying in. And then downtown where I live is right across from Staten Island. So we got like a 3.5 mile peninsula. It's real nice area, very diverse, which has been a plus for me growing up and traveling, throughout the country, and also playing ball overseas. Just to learn how to communicate and how to function with other people from other cultures that do things differently than you do.
Exactly. You mentioned a little bit about that in your book. But one thing before we go back to that, so you said you've been honing some skills during your quarantine. So what have you been working on? Just, you know.
Well, actually, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and so now that video is so strong, I've been able to incorporate that, and it's called Run That Back. And basically, the whole idea and the whole concept has just come from being the type of player that I was, and also, some of the things that I've encountered as a player. And I wanted the podcast to be about those things that people weren't talking about, those players that weren't getting the big up that they deserve to get, to get, and bring exposure from a player's standpoint as opposed to a fan standpoint, or as opposed to somebody who's, a reporter looking at it from the outside. I want to give an inside look into what goes on in the minds of players that are current, and especially former players who are out there, what they're doing, where they are now, what's going on with them, how can people get in contact with them, and ways that we can big up each other and help each other be successful on the other side of basketball.
Excellent. Has it started yet, or are you still working on getting it off the ground?
I do. I'm the one who's doing everything from producing to editing the video after I get finished with it. Actually, I chose to use Blue Jeans as opposed to Zoom for various reasons. And, it's up. I have it, on my Facebook page, which, you can find me, Adrienne Goodson. I have two pages, Adrienne Goodson, which doesn't have a space in it. That's my page with specifically basketball, and then Adrienne Goodson that has a space in between. That's my personal page where my family is, my friends, and everybody is. So I have it go up there. I have it also on YouTube as well. Run That Back. Sunday Brunch I do with Penny Toler and Tameka. So we're just doing a really good thing right now, and so it's building itself. I put blurbs on Instagram. I gotta, with IGTV, you only get 15-minute clips. So, right. I got to put 15 minutes of it and then refer them to all of my other networks. So right now I'm connecting all of my networks together, linking Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. So I'm working on that aspect.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's time consuming. So I've had time to do that, and I'm really glad with that.
Cool. I will definitely look that up today when we're done, because we're kind of the older set, because I've been covering the league for a long time, so it's really important for younger players to know the stories of people who paved the way for them, and people who are linking back to that, so they know their history. And there's so many young players who don't know what went on before them, so I'm really glad you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And and because people need to know who we are, and we're a bridge to a gap, and they have no understanding what their struggles are. We're just having healthy conversations about that. Penny was making a statement about that, and how the need there is for former players to be in the league, as mentors and working in those front offices. And the WNBA getting to a point where it stands on its own 2 feet, so that during times like these, we can reach back and get jobs, from the WNBA, instead of having to go over and utilize the not to get me wrong or anything like that, because those programs are the programs that have driven me from the Players Association on the men's side. Just running through their programs and doing things like that have allowed me to hone my skills in leadership and coaching. But it would be nice to be able to go and fall back on the WNBA and go through these programs and get jobs, from them, instead of always having to knock on the NBA's door, and make them welcome us into their setting. And so We still have a long way to go. I would love to, I continue to grow the game of basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball, just the game of basketball, period. I love it. I don't have a love for men or women's basketball. I am basketball. So I try not to divide myself like that, like people have a tendency to try to make us do. But, just being able to grow the game is really important for me. So most of my platforms have to do with, shouting out former players and giving a face to those players that these younger kids need to know. They have no idea.
Right. So the other person on the podcast is Tameka Dixon?
Yes.
Okay, also from New Jersey?
Yes.
So, getting back to the book for a little bit, just kind of ask you a few questions about it. Mm-hmm. So what was your overall impetus, your motivation for putting this ebook, or is it in print as well together?
It's in print,
and what did you hope to accomplish with it?
Yes. With the whole book, the whole idea was actually you just never know who you're mentoring when you're going through life. And so I had a young fella, his name is Vid Bugs Jr., who played noon ball with me over there at Old Dominion University. And, I ended up mentoring him for quite a few years, 20 years or so. And, he becomes a publisher. And so every now and again, he would joke around, go, Goody, you got to let me write your book. And I never really had time to actually sit down. And this isn't actually my greatest work. This was just a short story. And which is why I prefer it in a Kindle version. And, you can drop it, on your phone, iTunes and, Amazon. You can drop it, and I actually converted it to just being in a Kindle form because it is a short read. The reason why I was inspired to do the book, for the last 3 years, I had been going through different programs through the NBA and the Players Association, the Leadership Program, the Top 100 Coaches Program, the NBA Association's program. And I found myself still on the outside of working within the league. And knowing these programs, these transition programs, these crossover programs that they have, I just really didn't want to see anybody else become not so much a victim, but just get lost in the sauce. So I decided that I wanted to put my take out there as far as, where I came from, what my walk is. It's also a motivational book, for people, just for them to understand that, it's tough being a woman. It's definitely tough, as you can see nowadays, and being black, period. And let's not even talk about being a black man. So, there's just those struggles that we have to overcome. And they're not going away, you guys. It's learning how to navigate through all of that and understanding that you do have power. You are a child of God. He created life with words. And, I am every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God. And knowing that kind of power, you can do anything as long as you keep them by your side, and your nucleus and your mentor of people that you have around you can remind you of who you are and what it is that you want to become in life. And so I talk about my mother. I talk about the struggles of watching her having to raise me. My father left before I even came out of the womb, and how that defined me, how that affected me as a person, to watch her struggle and put me through life, and talking about the man who married her and decided to take care of someone else's child, which is really hard to do. Kudos to those men who marry women with children. That's not easy to do. And so I talked about that. I talked about, my uncle, who was the inspiration, my Uncle Skip, who was the inspiration, and, teaching me how to play basketball, meeting me out there. He worked the graveyard shift, but before he laid his head down to go to sleep, he would meet me out there on the basketball courts on 20th Street in Bayonne. The courts are no longer there, which is another story, and how we're destroying things that, help build children, our parks, talking about those and mentioning stuff like that, all the way to going through Old Dominion overseas and And, you know, just overcoming obstacles, going to another country, not speaking the language, teaching myself how to speak a language. We are so powerful as human beings. We can do anything. And so in that book, it's just really motivation, how to stick with it no matter what. You know, sometimes you're born into this world and things are stacked up against you, but God will put those people in your life who will help you navigate and who will help you get to the place that he wants you to get and ultimately reach the goals that you want to. But you got to follow the breadcrumbs and you got to stay focused.
Okay. With all that being said, what was maybe your biggest challenge in getting to Old Dominion and playing at a storied program? And while you were there, what do you feel was your biggest accomplishment? Not necessarily even on the court.
Yeah, I mean, Old Dominion is a whole saga within itself. You know, it started. It's funny because I was laughing and talking with someone yesterday because we were actually talking about being punished. And I was saying, you know, I said, you know what, my greatest punishment was when my mother decided that she was going to punish me on the day that Old Dominion was playing Tennessee. And I'm 12 years old, and this is in 79, I think it was, 80. And I'm 12 years old, and I'm watching this game. And first of all, I didn't believe my mother when she said, go in there and watch that women's basketball game on. I said, Mom, they don't play women's basketball on TV. All my mentors were men. So I go in there, I'm watching single-handedly destroy Old Dominion, and they had Nancy Lieberman, Inglis, and Angie Cotman on that team at the time, and Donovan, and Old Dominion ended up winning this game, and it was such an exciting thing for me. I was like, oh my God, this is great. I was so inspired by that. I went in the kitchen. I said to my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to Old Dominion University. She said, yeah, right, Adrienne. As a matter of fact, go outside. Go outside because you're getting on my nerves now. Go outside. I was like, okay. End of story. 5 years later, here I am suiting up at Old Dominion winning a national championship. The power of words is what I tell people and I tell children all of the time. You know, what you speak, you shall become. And Old Dominion was just, you know, I encountered Mary Ann Stanley, who, you know her story right now, national championship with the Mystics, just took the job with the Indiana Fever. These are my mentors, Wendy Larry and the destruction that she did over there at Old Dominion, winning 17 CAA champions. Just being around those types of people to instill in me how to become a great basketball player, but not so much a great basketball player, but how to become a great woman and be a respectable woman. These are women that have overcome obstacles in their lives, that used what happened to them to help us become greater women. And so I could go on and on about my story with Old Dominion winning the national championship in '85 with a powerful cast of seniors in Tracy Claxton and Medina Dixon. But what I would say my greatest testimony for Old Dominion was getting my degree and getting my diploma and getting that piece of paper, which is important for the African American community. And so, I went through a lot of channels and accomplished a lot of things as a player of the year. I can go on and on with the accolades on the court, but nothing can separate me from that diploma.
Right. That's great. The program kind of took a downturn for a little bit, but now it's back on the up and up with, recent coaches, people that were your peers on the court. First Nikki McCray and now Delisha Milton-Jones. What are your thoughts on their tenure at the program and what it means to have a black female be the head coach of your alma mater?
Oh, absolutely. Kudos to them. Nikki, it was tough for her to take that program to another level because of where it was when she took it. It wasn't in good hands, prior to her, and so she had a lot of obstacles. And to see her come in and, make a difference and change the culture, which is basically what she was doing when she was there. It wasn't so much about her coaching. It was about getting those kids to understand the importance of, of dedication and commitment and hard work. And when you have to do those types of things, it takes away from you being able to really build upon their skills, because you're working on their life skills more so than you were working on their basketball skills. And so, she left the program, and I wish her all of the luck over there in Mississippi. Delisha has taken over the program. I wish her all of the luck. I know she's going to be somebody who is really going to instill a lot of hard work in that program. I had to guard her when I played against the Sparks. I know how she is as a person. I know how she is as a player. Don't misinterpret her wanting to work hard for not being a nice person. She's going to require that you work hard when you come over at that school, just like Marianne Stanley required, just like Wendy Larry required. I hope that she gets a group of kids in there who understands that, whose parents understand that, and are willing to work hard and deal with the challenges that they're going to have to face to bring that program back to where it needs to be. And I think that they can do it, but it's going to take a lot of hard work, especially from the administration.
Right. And then transitioning from college onto the pro level. I mean, you played in the ABL, you played overseas in Brazil, and then you got into the WNBA, and you touched a little bit on player relations and some of the differences between the ABL and the WNBA. Do you think any monumental progress has been made since then, especially now with the new collective bargaining agreement, and you were involved in the first one?
Yeah, I can definitely say that there have been strides that have been made. Our biggest thing when I was there was, making sure that the vets were going to be taken care of. They were definitely underpaid, so we got that up to like 60. We got that up to $60K that year, which was big for back then, 2002. Now that they're going to take care of, they're taking care of maternity. They've raised the salaries across the board. There's definitely some things that they've touched upon. Do we have strides to make? Yes, we do. We still have it. I would love to one day, and I would love to live to see that moment here soon. Where the league really makes strides towards becoming independent, really starts to work on television and their contracts that we have as far as getting the exposure that we need. There's enough TV. There's enough TV streaming. Work on getting the sponsorships that we need and create more exposure for other players. We need to know beyond Sue Bird and Diane Taurasi. Not to knock on them, I love them, but they need to know more about other players and what that has to offer, and incorporating the former players and sitting at the table with us. And figuring out ways that we can grow this league. People need to see our faces. We've lost the history and the face of the history of the league, and so that needs to be out there. And now during this time, during COVID, is a great time to really, really work on the sponsorships and getting faces out there so that people can understand the product, because it's going to be delayed. And so while we're in this delay, let's be productive and be proactive in those areas that need growth immediately.
Do you think, as someone who was successful in the league's early days and looking back, that there is enough communication between the veterans and the current, outside of the players who played and who are coaches on the front office in the WNBA now, that there's enough communication between the veterans and the current crop of front office or people running the WNBA, so that kind of gap, it narrows?
No, absolutely not. We have to narrow that gap, and we have to narrow it ASAP, and that's so much of the reason for my podcast, my video podcast, which you can definitely catch on Facebook. I'm going, YouTube is starting to get a following. Run That Back is starting to get a following to, and we discuss those very topics. And we're not over there bashing the WNBA. I could never bash where I come from, but to bring exposure to the things that we definitely need to work on. Absolutely. there needs to be immediate intervention in that area where former players and the Players Association have dialogue so that we really can help and get these player programs off of the ground, because we need player programs immediately so that during times like this, the first and second and third the third round draft picks don't have to worry about getting cut because there's a situation like COVID. If we had some player programs in place, those players could still be on the payroll, while they participate in internships and different things like that, to get us through these times. But they're non-existent right now, so we just need to definitely sit down and disagree to agree.
What about something like, the NBA has with the G League, this developmental program, because so many teams cut every single one of their rookies, and these poor kids have to sit home. They got one paycheck and 1 month of health care, and now they have to figure out what their next step is. Not to say, that they shouldn't have had a backup plan, but you're talking about, 22-year-olds who never would have imagined that this could have happened. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you feel about, the current situation and not being able to develop players, whether or not we're in a year of quarantine?
Well, I mean, that's a difficult situation all across the board. Nobody was planning COVID, and the WNBA does not want to be in the position that they're in. I can tell you that right now. They're not happy with what they had to do. The general managers aren't happy with what they had to do. The owners aren't happy with what they had to do. So what has to happen right now is there has to be a plan B in place by all of the teams where they're guiding these kids through this time period, And what can we create right now? Because it's not that they're saying to them, no, you can't play in this league. What they're saying is no right now. And what can we do to fill that space with these kids with the no, not right now? And there's a company right now, and we made mention to it. So I hope that you would go on Facebook and watch my last episode or run that back. We actually taped something, and I haven't put it up because the one I wanted to give this other one its due justice, but I'm gonna put it up. And we were talking about Famer. And Famer is an app where it's actually employing players, and it's allowing them and their trainers to upload video footage on training. And so and they're sharing the revenue. And so this is blowing up right now. But see, this is what's happening on the men's side, and it needs to happen on the women's side immediate. Now, I'm not talking about those players that are those top tier players that made the roster. I'm talking about the ones that they cut and also offer it to former players.
What's the name of the program again?
It's called Famer, Famer.
Okay. Oh, Famer. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned it. I mentioned it in my podcast as well, where they what they're doing, and now this week I see them really posting it up on LinkedIn right now, and so it's fantastic what they're doing. And if the NBPA can immediately come up with something like that, there's so many other companies out here that can immediately do that. And we have immediate impact. We can go to a sponsor because we have a viable product that's in its 24th year that we can present to a company and say, hey, let's partner, let's get together where we do these things so that we can employ our players. And no, it's just not going to be something that's going to just be for this period of time, but it'll extend. And now that person has something that they have for after basketball, which is where we're all running into our problems.
Well, if they can spend all that time, the kids making TikTok videos, they'll certainly want to do this.
Absolutely. How can we turn this into, a money-making thing for, players that are on the outside of this whole thing now because of COVID, and how we can help also employ former players, because I'm going to always stand on the side of that, because I still I still need to see some movement in that area. There hasn't been any, and there needs to be some. And that's a lot of the reason why our program hasn't, our league hasn't had the growth that it could have if we still had those faces of players. I love going to the men's NBA All-Star because they bring back all of their All-Stars, former players who, were All-Stars, bring them back, and there's a whole movement that takes place during that time. And so if we don't do those things and we don't get creative like that, it's going to be hard for us to have that growth. Because I say on the men's side all of the time, I said, you guys have to realize and recognize that we have our masters, we have our bachelor's degrees. We don't leave school. So we're qualified, more than qualified, to come back and work in these offices.
Well, talking about that and being prepared, what would you, if you were speaking to a group of these young players right now, the rookies who didn't make the squad and the ones who did, what advice would you give them on being successful in a pro career?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's hard work. My biggest thing was, consistency. If you can manage to make that a part of your characteristic, you can go far, and you have to work hard. You're going to have your ups and downs, like just especially speaking to the kids that, find themselves on the other side. Now you're not going to be playing. Continue to work out. Continue to hone your craft. All right. It's not that you're not good enough, because that wasn't the case. It's not that you couldn't have made the team. That wasn't the case. It happened to be a natural, I guess we could say, a natural disaster. I don't even know what you would consider this. We have a virus going around. And so that was the reason. So stay in shape. Continue to work out, because if you stay ready, then you don't have to get ready. And if and when, and there's no if, when this all blows over, you have no idea when it's going to happen. Overseas might open up. You go over there and you play. You still continue to have your dreams, your hopes, and your desires, because next year is another year. You never know what may happen. It opens up, and now you're playing. So you're in the books with the team. You've already been drafted. They own you. So all you got to do is just be ready. So stay focused. Work on your craft. Work on something, on the future you right now, and it's always going to be commitment and desire. I missed a lot of birthday parties, births, parties, anniversaries, just so many different things that had to do with my family. Sacrifice was a big thing. But for the greater good, was it worth it? Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Want to wrap up? I don't want to keep it too much longer. Two more things. We mentioned earlier about the stuff that's going on in the nation, and there have been a lot of players who've been speaking out, a lot of coaches. Dawn Staley doesn't hold her tongue, with her thoughts on what's going on. How do you feel about the role of players as activists and speaking out against injustice?
Oh, man, I think that we wear the greatest crown when it comes to that, because we're familiar faces already out there in public. And, people ask me all of the time, well, how is it that it's so easy for you to get these kids to adapt to what it is that you're saying? I'm like, my reputation precedes me. I'm a former WNBA player, so I have their attention already. So I can do things, I can do wonderful things through that. And, we're an advocate for change all day long. And when different things like this happens, the majority of the players that are in the league are African American. And so with that being said, you can utilize and use our faces all at all times when there's situations like this. And am I pro-black? Am I Black Lives Matter? No one should have died like that in the middle of the street. We are not barbarians. We are not barbaric. We are not back in the days where they stoned people or they publicly lynched. At some point in time, we have to graduate from that. We used to be the greatest example for people around the world. What are we now? To be ashamed to call myself an American, Like, how did we get to that?
It's deep, huh?
Yes.
So, with that being said, this kind of gave us a taste of, of your thoughts, the Kindle book. Do you have any plans to maybe expand this into a full-blown biography?
Yeah, eventually at some point in time, I want to make sure that I do it when I'm totally free and I have the time to do it, because it's definitely time consuming and I want to make that space for it. So, eventually that will happen. So with that being said, I'm definitely, looking forward to, something like that eventually, in the future, but I really enjoyed, writing the one that I'm writing now, and just my memoirs and keeping a journal at all times. So when I do decide to put it all together, and I also want to know what angle I want to come out, because every chapter that's in my Kindle read, every single chapter that's in that Kindle read is a book within itself. The American Basketball League, can write about that for days. That was a fantastic league. The WNBA, fantastic league. That's a book within itself. Talking about my childhood, overcoming obstacles. And if it wasn't for the PAL, I don't know who I would be. So, overseas. So there's a lot of different facets to that book. So I really want to make sure that when I do decide to come out with another one, that I know exactly which direction I'm going to take. So this one here is just a blurb of, a piece of every portion of my life, and each one has its own book.
Yeah. Well, that's about it that I had, but is there anything else you want to say, let people out there know about you, what you've been doing, or what your plans are? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just my handles and where you can catch and follow me, on Insta at agoody15, and that's AGOODY 15, agoody. That's on Insta. On YouTube, it's just Adrienne Goodson, and then on Twitter, it's agoody15 _ WNBA, and then on Facebook, it's just my name, Adrienne Goodson. Come and follow me. I'm actually getting ready to finish my walk. I do hills, and I got a segment that I do on Instagram. It's called Hills and Push-Ups. So I'm going to finish up with that. And, my goal is 10,000 steps. That's tough when you're not using an elliptical or a treadmill. Let's get that understood. To do 10,000, yeah, it is. It really is, but that's my goal. To do it every single day, that's like literally committing to walking 4 miles, 4.5, something like that, miles a day. So that's not easy to do. So my goal is, I got, the closest I got was like 9,500, and I was like, whoa.
It goes by. Actually, I have a Fitbit, so I have the 10K as well, but you have to be in constant motion. You can't be sedentary.
No, you can't. You gotta count them little steps that you take to the bathroom. You better keep that phone on you. Just a little tip.
Yeah. Well, at night, if you don't make it, just run in place or walk in place for a little bit. You'll get it.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I'm good. But see, I also do my old 1998 version of Billy Blank's Tybo.
Oh, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Good one.
Girl, that's what started me back working out.
Oh, really? Tybo?
Girl, I still haven't graduated to getting that kicked waist high, though, because that right there, that Billy, he'll get up in you.
Yeah, wow.
And it's the old one. It's the old school workouts, girl. You know that. Like them old Jack LaLanne calisthenics. It's those the ones that keep you strong. But I'm sitting in this car sweating, like I'm in a sauna, which is good. But, I'm already up to like 3,000. So I'm going to finish up with my hills. I don't know if I'm going to do push-ups because I didn't bring my gloves and I don't like, touching on stuff. So I might just go ahead and keep it moving and walk, finish up my walk, do what I do. And, listen, I'm going to shoot you the app so you could get in. If you want to. We got like a couple of people in there that are doing it. Just, we could do the walk across America through the app. Shoot.
Excellent. Well, send it to me, and I'll definitely look into it and get on it. And thank you so much for calling again. It's going to take me a little while to transcribe this, but I hope to have it up early in the week. And I'll shoot you guys an email to let you know when everything goes up, because I'm also doing a summer reading list as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna send you all of my handles, and you send me all of yours. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to get some more followers and subscribers and stuff, especially on Insta and YouTube.
Okay, will do.
All right.
All right. You take care, and good luck with your walk.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm ready to get after it. I gotta get up out of this car, girl.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.